but felt compelled to go live today on Substack and let you know that I was very displeased and shocked to see former Congressman Matt Gaetz on One American News Network, conservative platform, more conservative and better representing of conservatives than even Fox News. Fox News gets a little bit corporate. I enjoy it. I think it's fine. Still think we need to go look for our news on our own rather than be fed our news. But I saw former Congressman Matt Gaetz on there, and I was struck by how much time he spent on discussing how the President Trump should, in fact, reschedule reschedule cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. Now, that's fine. People are allowed to have their opinion. I'm okay with that. It's not that I don't like. It's not like I want them to deplatform or cut down the First Amendment, but the actual issue that he presented a great deal of misdirection and deception in that. And the misdirection deception, he was like, he played upon um, people's lack of knowledge about drug scheduling, where he's describing that we should reschedule marijuana because it's not as dangerous as some other drugs. And in fact, he is correct that marijuana in Schedule 1 is less dangerous than some drugs in Schedule 2 and Schedule 3. Um, but the part that he was deceptive about is that Schedule 1, 2, and 3 is not a ranking of the drug's danger to people. It is a ranking of a list of criteria as to whether things are replicable, as to whether things are medically accepted, whether these things have an accepted medical use. So you are going to find fentanyl in Schedule 2. It's a strongly controlled substance, dangerous. Um, Marijuana is on Schedule 1 because it is considered highly addictive. It is considered a dangerous drug. And it's a much more dangerous drug than it was 30 years ago. 30 years ago, we were still dealing with the Woodstock weed of about 4% potency from the late 60s. But in the last 30 years, and really in the 2000s, we have seen the potency of weed and the THC level increase to up to 25% just in homegrown weed or cultivated weed. So unprocessed cultivated weed has just been bred to a point where it's 3, 4, 5 times as potent, and we've seen the results of that. We've seen the results of that in our youth. It is a trigger for many people to experience different types of psychosis. And I was part of the group of people in America who, if they said that somebody was acting crazy and that they were on weed, that either there was more to the story, that there was something else on there, that they were on something else and weed, or that they were on what they thought was weed, and it turns out that it was something completely different, synthetic, um, or that the weed had been laced with something. And really, that is the common perception. But at this date and time, we have so many people that um, we everyone will admit that we have what's considered statistically a mental health crisis in this country. That we have more depressed and anxious youth than we've ever had in history, and we have that while giving them more therapy than we've ever given them in history. Also, it's at a time when weed is not. It was considered. We all had playful Cheech and Chong jokes about weed, But weed's had a dark side for some time, and even in funny movies like Ted and Ted 2, they talk about the effects of really, really bad weed. They had one on there that they called mind rape, and they had another one on another strain that was called help me get home. So are they still watching us in that van across the street? So even in the lighthearted circles of weed, back when Saturday Night Live was funny, well, when it was briefly funny, and probably around 2009, 2010, Michael Phelps, the famous Olympic swimmer, he was he was busted for having some weed in the system, and then they joked about how that he was suspended for, I don't know, like 3 weeks or something, 3 weeks or a month or something like that. And even the fake anchors on the fake news said, the last thing you want to do to somebody who has got a weed problem is give them a lot more time off, a lot more time on their hands. So the we just really need to counter the idea that weed is, first of all, not a dangerous drug. I think there was a time when weed wasn't a dangerous drug. I remember police officers that I worked with said that they would never have an occasion where they would go to perhaps a domestic violence situation and there wouldn't be and the only problem there as far as substance abuse would be weed. And so, and now, we're still in a mode where we're not expecting that to be the case. Michael Brown was, according to the Department of Justice results and according to his autopsy, highly intoxicated on cannabis at the time that he at the time that he encountered the officer at Ferguson. So the we're talking about a gentle giant. Everyone's talking about how good this guy is, what a nice guy he is. But now he's robbing convenience stores, and now he's challenging cops. A narrative that despite great efforts to disprove the fact, no one was able to find any misconduct or wrongdoing on the part of Officer Darren Wilson. So it's something that we found in the Memphis 5 case. Also, we found that the gentleman who was pulled over, and he was pulled over for reckless driving. He was driving in oncoming traffic. He was just panicked, and then when he got pulled over, he became even more panicked. Now we're not talking about whether the officers who pulled him over were doing the right thing or doing the wrong thing. That's not this conversation. This conversation is talking about that this person, the person who was pulled over, had weed in their system, and they also had a list of prescriptions to treat them for anxiety. Now, unfortunately, on many many people don't know this. I didn't know it until I researched it. Is that the last thing you want to give to somebody with anxiety is cannabis. It is literally like kicking a bucket of gasoline onto a fire that you're trying to put out. So you are going to send people off the deep end with this. Scandinavia, they did a survey where they actually were able to plot teen suicide with THC concentration in weed. Now, that's a shocking study, but it's real data, and it was real data that wasn't intended to make the proof on this. So more and more things have come out. Just yesterday, out of Washington, from the drug report, August 15th, 2025. So that's today. They have a quote here. Based on the reason for an ER admission, if you have marijuana use alone, you have a 14.6 chance of developing schizophrenia. If you are uh, if you are visiting the emergency room and you are there because you were taken there because of cannabis induced psychosis, you have a, buckle up, 241.6 time uh, likelihood of developing like a permanent case of schizophrenia. So, these are this was a study from the University of Ottawa. It found that people who visited the ER due to marijuana use are 14.6 times more likely to develop schizophrenia. And here's the big one: individuals who visited the ER due to cannabis-induced psychosis are a dizzying 241.6 times more likely to develop schizophrenia. So this is not something that has been um, this has been something that has been driven by the potency of marijuana skyrocketing. It says that since the 2 decades ago, the average marijuana potency was 4% THC. Now it's over 20%. This fivefold increase in potency has predictably led to a public health disaster. And now what we're trying to do is we're trying to legalize it further. And that is what the only motive behind uh, rescheduling weed right now, there's only one motive, and that's money. That's we want people want to be able to take their money that they make off cannabis and take it to the bank and bring it into the real economy. Right now, on Schedule One, due to federal laws, can't do that, even if you have a state where you have recreational marijuana is legalized, and that is the keystone of the argument for legalizing marijuana. And you're doing a de facto legalization of marijuana when you are rescheduling it to Schedule One. And they've also said, and I agree with it, is that Schedule One is where it belongs. The Obama administration tried to reschedule marijuana. They tried for about 7 years. They tried from 2009 is when they started, and they tried to do it through that. The results that they got back from that, and I think I have that in something that I wrote, was that was that this was from the Drug Enforcement Administration. This was their feedback back to the White House. The White House that's saying, we want you to do this. We want you to reschedule this. So Schedule 2 drugs, substances or chemicals, are defined as drugs with a high potential for abuse, with use potentially leading to severe psychological or physical dependence. These drugs are also considered dangerous. So it talks about the ones that are the Schedule 2 drugs here. Let's see if I can find what I wrote about the denial of the petition to the White House. Now they received this in July 2016. So this is right before Trump's election, and this is after really a 7.5 year process. So it says, and there's numbers here, and because there's 5 points that you have to overcome in order to reschedule marijuana. Now it says number one is that marijuana has a high potential for abuse. Now that's something that's a demand that you have to um, meet in order to put something on Schedule One. So marijuana fits the bill here. It says the HHS evaluation and the additional data gathered by the DEA show that marijuana has a high potential for abuse, and it's also dependency and abuse. Number two, it says marijuana currently has no currently accepted medical use in treatment in the United States. It says based on the established 5-part test for making such determination, marijuana has no, quote, currently accepted medical use, end quote, because, as detailed in the HHS evaluation, the drug's chemistry is not known and is not reproducible. There are no adequate safety studies. So we haven't done, when we talk about studies, we've done a lot of studies with weed, but we don't have any things that are providing that it's helping people. We don't have any established studies. So you're pretty much universally more likely to be going to the hospital because of marijuana already in your system, and not going to be treated at the hospital with marijuana for some other problem that you have. So there's no adequate safety studies. There are no adequate and well-controlled studies proving efficacy. I know there's a lot of testimonials out there. Some of them I believe is that, like let's say people that are on chemotherapy, they say that weed helps them be less nauseous, and I want them to be like that, and that's why we have medical marijuana in many states, including my own. But the the drug the drug is not accepted by qualified experts, and this scientific evidence is not widely available. Well, it's not widely available because it's not out there. I mean, the studies that we have, and we're talking about now. We're going all the way back to 2009. We're looking at 16 years of pro weed administrations. So the Trump administration, I don't think they had time to get to weed during then. I heard last August, last September, when President Trump was running, that he was going to vote in support of Florida's Amendment 3. But the uh, okay, and here's one more. There is marijuana lacks accepted safety for use under medical supervision. So at present, there are no U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved marijuana products, nor, and this is important, nor is marijuana under a new drug application, NDA, evaluation at the FDA for any indication. So they the last administration, the Biden administration, pushed this. They brought Admiral Levine from HHS, the assistant secretary for HHS. That no one knew who the secretary was, but everyone knew who the assistant secretary was. And so he was a senior citizen who, if you don't remember, had adopted the trappings of feminine apparel. But but during this time, cannabis products have only become more potent, caused more poison control calls, more emergency room visits among children, and derailed young lives. One of my best friends and favorite people, he says that his favorite place in the world is Durango, Colorado. And now, just based on their legalization of weed and seeing all of those ruined young lives just lying in the streets of Durango. He doesn't have the heart to go back and really enjoy it. He really thinks that it's spoiled. So I don't care for the aroma of marijuana, but I don't really care about that one way or the other. I don't like any bad smell, and probably neither do you. But that is not my reason for opposing this. My reason for opposing this, and my reason for being um, disturbed with the conservative and right wing platform actually encouraging something that we know that it's going to the um, cause a de facto legalization. We know that, and in the end, it is going to cause a lot more harm and a lot more young deaths. If these things are legalized, we know that the money is going to go to the cartels and the black markets. The black markets are just loving the idea that we create recreational marijuana. First of all, because it means a great deal. Our scope of enforcement of illegal marijuana would be greatly crippled by that. So those are my concerns. As soon as I really, my eyes were opened about cannabis, and then my eyes were also open about how much money was behind it. It was the most uh, um, lavishly funded constitutional amendment challenge for the state of Florida ever in the history of Florida. I don't know how much, and it got more than 50% of the vote in Florida, which is very concerning, not good. So it only needs to reach 60%. So I'm claiming victory when I don't know what it wound up being, was 54, 57% of the vote, but it didn't reach 60% here, and I'm glad about that. We already have medical marijuana, and medical marijuana, I mean, it has just an exhaustive list of conditions that you can claim in order to get medically supervised marijuana. The doctors are right there in the storefronts and then the dispensaries and the old bank buildings. So you can go there and get your weed if you want to. So this and really, if you're just an old hippie on the in spirit and you want to go smoke weed, I don't care. I really couldn't care less. I do care about just bringing this into society like that. And I do think it is in the right place. I think it belongs to stay right there. And I am hopeful because I did hear from President Trump. All the headlines were saying that President Trump was considering rescheduling it, but they didn't directly quote him. And he says, I'm hearing some good things, I'm hearing some bad things about it. So I really hope that whatever influence that you have, that you would use it in order to both let One American News to know that we don't need that kind of commentary from Matt Gaetz. I think he's a nice guy. I'm not going to hang out with him on the weekends, but I think he's nice. I think he was an effective congressman. I think he was a loyal Republican at that time. But definitely couldn't become attorney general just because there were so many reputational issues surrounding him. To be nominated for that and to take his foot off the floor of the House of Representatives to accept that, and then basically be left without a seat there. But so this isn't against him, but I know that he was very much pro Amendment 3, and now he's coming out, with a nationwide voice to do this. And I don't think One American News, should be letting him platform uh, the this thing where there's just such an obvious financial conflict of interest for him and his family. Those of you who stuck with me and came here, I couldn't thank you enough. And please, if you're new to me, and if you care about the future of policing, officer wellness, public safety, you're in the right place. My written work, I share real stories. I do straight talk, real well researched and actionable solutions. I've joined the Police Officers Defense Coalition, and I go as a citizen lobbyist, and I go and discuss public safety issues with our nation's leaders. So please follow me. Please join. Please consider a paid subscription. A paid subscription helps the family out a great deal. It helps subsidize a lot of the activities that people have been very receptive about me engaging in over the last year. So anyway, let me just close with this. Thank you so much. Please do everything that you can to protect our kids, and please keep all of our first responders in your prayers. Thanks for checking in.